I would like to tell a story about my eighth great-grandparents, Anna and Jacob Hochstetler, who were involved in a terrible attack. The Hochstetler family is thought to have originated near Schwarzenberg, Switzerland, in the 14th or 15th century. In the 1600s, some members of the family joined the Anabaptist Reform movement. Because of their adherence to the doctrines of believers' baptism and non-resistance, Anabaptists suffered severe persecution, and beginning in the 1700s, many of them immigrated to America to find religious freedom. My eighth great-grandfather, Jacob Hochstetler, and his family arrived in Philadelphia in 1738. By 1739, the family had settled along the North Kill Creek on the eastern edge of the Blue Mountains in what is now Berks County, Pennsylvania, at that time the western frontier of the British colonies. They built a homestead and farm buildings, cleared the land for farming, and planted several acres of fruit trees. They helped to establish the first Amish Mennonite church in America in the North Kill area in 1740. The North Kill Amish settlement was on the edge of the legal boundary of European settlement according to agreements with the Native Americans. The area was part of the traditional home of the Lenape Indians, who had been forced to relocate by several unfair land purchase agreements, most notably the walking purchase of 1739. The growing European population had reduced the availability of game that the Indians depended on, and relations with the settlers were often tense. By the early 1750s, many Lenape had moved into the Ohio country and were accepting French support. At the start of the French and Indian War, Lenape warriors, often accompanied by French soldiers, began attacking farms and settlements in Pennsylvania. On September 19, 1757, my eighth great-grandparents and their family had a gathering of local neighbors to pare and slice apples for drying. After the guests departed, the family dog began barking, and Joseph Hochstetler opened the front door. He was then shot in the leg by Lenape warriors, about 10 of whom, under the command of 3 French scouts, had entered the North Kill settlement. The Hochstetlers had firearms in the home, which they used for hunting, and the 2 sons, Joseph and Christian, aged 11 and 13, loaded their guns to defend the family. But their father, Jacob Hochstetler Sr., adhered to the Anabaptist Christian doctrine of non-resistance and refused to allow weapons to be used against the Indians. At dawn, the Indians set the house on fire, then stood guard around the house so the family could not escape without risking their lives. As the fire worsened, the family fled into the cellar, using apple cider to wet the floorboards overhead, but as the smoke threatened to asphyxiate them, they decided to try to escape out of the cellar window, as they could not see any of their attackers and presumed that the warriors had left. One Indian, however, who was known as Tom Lyons, had remained nearby to eat peaches. He observed that Anna, my eighth great-grandmother, had gotten stuck in the window during the escape, and he called the other warriors. Anna was then stabbed in the back and scalped. Another daughter and Jacob Jr. were unalived. And Joseph escaped, although the Indians soon recaptured him. All this was witnessed by an older brother, John Hochstetler, who had come from his neighboring farm and was watching from concealment. Newspapers also reported the death of a soldier, Philip Sommer, on the same day, although the circumstances are unknown. Jacob Hochstetler, my eighth great-grandfather, was held captive until he escaped and traveled to Fort Augusta in May 1758. He was interviewed at Fort Augusta about his experiences on May 5, 1758, in front of Colonel Henry Bouquet. He told the examiners that his home was assaulted on October 12, 1757 by 15 Lenape and Shawnee warriors, and he was taken by them to Fort Machault, a journey on foot and by boat which took 17 days. The following day, he was taken to Fort Presque Isle. 3 days after this, he was sent to a Native American community above Venango on the Allegheny River, identified as the Seneca village of Buckaloons, where he remained until April 1758, about 8 months. He reported that, after some time, he was trusted to go hunting alone and decided to escape. After walking east for 6 days, he reached the Susquehanna River. He followed it for another 4 days, then he constructed a crude bark raft and floated downriver for 5 more days until he reached Fort Augusta. Colonel James Byrd wrote to Governor William Denny that he had seen Hochstetler floating downriver on the raft and had some soldiers help him to shore. Hochstetler told the examiners that for the last few days of his escape journey, he ate only grass. Jacob's 2 sons were separated from him at Fort Presque Isle, where the 2 boys were sold or given to Native American families. Jacob later learned that Christian had been adopted by the Lenape chief Custaloga. On August 13, 1762, Jacob petitioned Governor James Hamilton for assistance in getting his sons back. After Colonel Henry Bouquet negotiated a peace treaty with the Lenape, they were released to the British colonial authorities with over 200 other European captives in October 1764. Soon afterwards, Joseph was handed over to British authorities at Fort Augusta, and on parting, his Native American family encouraged him to visit them and to consider them brothers. Reportedly, he had returned frequently to the village where he had been held captive. He always maintained that if their father had allowed them to shoot at their attackers, the Indians would have fled. Hochstetler family tradition says that Christian had been living in a village in Ohio, and after being handed over to Colonel Bouquet's troops at their camp on the Muskingum River, he made his way back to the North Kill Amish settlement. In 1765, he arrived at the home when the family was eating dinner and they offered him food, not recognizing him due to his Native American dress and haircut. Later, as Christian was sitting on a stump outside the home, Jacob Hochstetler approached him, and Christian told him his name, spoken in broken German. Christian was welcomed back into the community, married, and eventually converted to the Schwarzenau Brethren, for whom he became a minister. Altogether, more than 150 Berks County residents were killed, and about 150 were kidnapped by Native Americans during the French and Indian War. Jacob Hochstetler carried on and expanded the Amish community. There are many living descendants of the Hochstetler family currently living in the Amish community today. Thank you for taking the time to listen to the story of my 8th great grandparents, Jacob and Anna Hochstetler.